Hello and welcome to another episode of the Wisdom of Friends podcast. Thank you for tuning in. If this is your first time listening, then thanks for coming. This is a podcast where you get to learn more about your friends and community, their wisdom, their trials and tribulations, timeless insights, and their secrets. Now, let's get into the show. Please welcome your host, Cal Arras.
Hello, folks. Welcome to Season 3 of Wisdom of Friends, and I'm your host, Cal Ross. And today I'm really excited to be introducing you to a dear friend of mine. Her name is Katerina Satori. Katerina is a transformational coach, a digital marketer, and a best-selling author who inspires people to value the challenges in life and turn them into powerful lessons, and use those lessons to develop skills and talents and eventually into their legacy to become an inspired leader. Over the last 15 years, she has assisted hundreds of people to learn to love themselves, step into their power, align with their soul's calling, and find their soulmates and become inspired entrepreneurs and leaders. She uses a bag of tools which is a mix of ancient esoteric wisdom and modern science like holodynamics, quantum physics, and the wisdom teachings of human design and gene keys. She also leads transformational experiences like Vision Quest and Destination Adventure Retreats. So friends, this is really a fascinating conversation where we talk about Katerina's journey all the way from Russia to the United States with nothing but a dream, and how she has used challenges in her life every step along the way to reinvent herself and turn life's challenges into opportunities. This is a power-packed episode with a lot of good nuggets for life, love, career, and business. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. So without further ado, let's welcome the one and only Katerina Satori. So good evening, Katerina. Welcome to the Wisdom of Friends show, and I'm really excited that you took the time to be on this program. And let me start off with my first impressions of you. I don't know if you recall, but this was almost a few years ago when we met at a conference. It was a transformational conference in San Jose, and I think you were there with your brother, and I was there with my brother, and I think that's how we first met. And then we've been Facebook friends since then, and I've just been impressed with the transformational work that you do with people and helping them really reach their highest potential. So I'm really excited that you took the time to be on the show, and welcome to the Wisdom of Friends program.
Thank you, Cal. It's really an honor. It's such a joy to connect. Thank you.
That's awesome. And one of the ways, Katerina, we start off our show with a very simple but profound question of our guest, and that is, what is your favorite quote or philosophy that you live by, and how have you applied it to your life?
I would say, it's a tough one to narrow down, but I will say with the first one that comes to mind, life must be lived forward and can only be understood backwards. So this is by Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard. And I had sometimes I feel like I've lived 10 lifetimes in one. And when you're going through different rings of fire on your path of leadership and service to humanity, sometimes you can only understand why you've been led through such level of initiations and, such leaps of faith. You can only understand it backwards. So that's the reason I love it. And I keep just living my life forward.
That is so great. I really, I totally agree with you. And I think, I think it was Steve Jobs who had said it brilliantly as well. It was like you can only live your life looking forward, and you can only connect the dots once you've lived a life. I believe I'm really butchering the phrase there, but I think it's really moving forward with your life. I think that's really what I'm hearing from your share there. That is so great. And then my next question to you is, and I'm really curious, I know for the benefit of the audience, Katerina is an entrepreneur, innovator, digital marketer, and a best-selling author. But the most important thing she does, what I found to be really impressive, is that she's a transformational coach, and she brings esoteric wisdom combined with modern science that help people achieve their highest potential. So, Katerina, my question to you is, how did this journey begin for you? Did you always know you wanted to be this coach and helping people live their fullest potential?
Cal, I felt connection to my purpose since five years old. I actually asked my mom when I was only 5, what is my life purpose and why I'm here? So, it was funny. I had this knowing that there is a bigger role for me to play and there's a bigger mission, a bigger service. But I've been in training for the work that I'm doing now all my life. I didn't know that I was in training, I just kept following my path, kept following where the path will lead me. But the coaching career and the coaching consulting and this level of a service, it naturally evolved. When they say when the teacher is ready, the student will appear. So about 5 years ago, my very first consulting client actually asked me to coach him. We had a powerful conversation for 3 hours. We met at the conference and then exchanged information. And he calls me next morning and he says, Katerina, I worked with the best of the best coaches in the world. Something about your energy, something about our conversation that moved me deeply. How can I hire you? And Cal, I did not even skip the beat. I was like, well, let me put something together for you and I will get back to you. And that's how my coaching career started. People just started coming and asking for wisdom and for direction. And, I just kind of learned as I go. I'm, serving people because they kept coming and finding me.
No, that is really awesome. And I think what I'm hearing you share here is there was a inclination right when you were a kid, 5 years old, that you knew you wanted to make a difference, and everything since then has been a learning process towards helping you help others. And so that brings up another question for me. So where did you grow up and how would you describe your childhood?
Oh my goodness. So I grew up in the Soviet Russia, Cal. Soviet Russia, when I was 10, that's when the Soviet Union fell apart. And so I've seen the country going through, some level certainty to the dark times of uncertainty and almost like the modern style revolution in a way. And I believe I was born in Russia to develop this next level of resilience that is crucial for entrepreneurship. I always felt like Russia was not my home. I always felt I was born in the wrong country. I didn't fit in, and I just kept trusting the deeper knowing. So at 5 years old, I asked my mom, what is my purpose? And at 7 years old, I actually told my mother that I'm going to live in the United States. It was a very prophetic knowing. I had these multidimensional gifts, these esoteric gifts from early childhood, like telepathy and clairvoyance and clairaudience and deep sense of intuition. I could read people's auras. I didn't have the right role models to guide me to develop those gifts, so I suppressed them for the really, really long time. But, something about the age from 0 to 7, when the children are so perceptive, I just kept sharing these prophetic messages, and I just had this knowing that I will live in the United States. So my journey in Russia was, really building that character. And then I left my hometown. I grew up in the very, very far east of Russia. It's called the Far East, Vladivostok. It's right next to China and across from Japan. And I left when I was only 16, and I started traveling, went to my very first college. So, the journey was preparing me to be self-sufficient, to be independent, and to just really develop those life survival skills in a way, because I had to be on my own from such an early age, which helped me through entrepreneurship immensely.
No, that is fantastic. And it reminds me of a quote by, I believe, Oprah. I think she said it beautifully that, everything you've ever done prepares you for all that you can do and be. Once you clarify your purpose for doing something, the way to do it becomes clear. And it seems like you really are a shining example of having pursued your calling, having pursued your passion, and that's really brilliant. And so my question to you is, when you look back at your life and up until now, what would you say was that breakthrough success moment for you? Was there like a turning point, or in other words, life was never the same again moment?
Absolutely. And I love that quote, Cal. Wow, what a powerhouse quote. You know, there were many turning points like that. I would say the major turning point when I came to United States, I came here by myself, knowing nobody, and I only had $3 in my pocket. That's all I had to my name to start a new life at the age of 23. So that was the point of such deep trust in my path. You know, I remember coming down that plane and looking at what I have left, because I put all my money on the plane ticket, on visa, on the documents. I came here to work as a student exchange program, and I came here for the summer job, you know, in order to pay for my college in Europe. And I remember getting off that plane and looking at the $3 that I had left, and you know, the just a few crackers that I saved from the plane ride, because I didn't know when my meal would come. But I was so grateful that I've made to that part. You know, for me, America was like a promised land, because in Russia, when I left Russia, Cal, I had such incredible opportunities there. I wanted to pursue journalism. You know, I had a really good job, but my soul kept calling me to explore different land, and specifically my soul kept calling me to the United States. So I left everything behind, and one of the reasons I felt disconnected from, you know, building my life in Russia is because I never felt I could develop my full sovereignty. You know, I felt like my wings were tied back there. I either had to be somebody's girlfriend, somebody's mistress, or somebody's wife, you know, in order to build a life of success and fulfillment and achievement as a woman in Russia. The odds were stacked against me. And I didn't want to wait, you know, all my life until the shift will happen there. I knew it would take a really, really long time. So I saw America as a country where I could really spread my wings and really develop my talents and gifts and really build a legacy, you know? So that was the turning point where I was on that plane, and I was so happy, and I just trusted if the life and the spirit brought me to this moment, it's going to continue carrying me forward. You know, so that was a really powerful moment.
No, that's great. And that's really an inspiring story, because, you know, being an immigrant myself, you know, I came here as a student, and it definitely was very challenging, but nothing compared to, you know, your challenges as far as, you know, financial crunch, and then having just a dream to sustain you going forward. So that really brings up another question. What were one or two biggest challenges that you faced in your life, and how did you overcome it? And what I mean by that is, what were some of the lessons that you learned that helped you navigate life going forward?
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, the biggest challenge for me was, well, there were a couple ones. The first one was my health crisis when I was 29 years old. You know, so if we go kind of backwards, once I entered the United States, you know, I started my life here. You know, my very first job was housekeeping, Cal. You know, I already had 2 degrees, but I started from the very, very bottom, 0. And it taught me so much humility and appreciation, you know, and really taking pride from, no matter how humble your beginnings, do your job well. So fast forward 8 years, I spent 8 years being this high achiever, you know, a person as an immigrant yourself, you know, to see opportunities. I just would work 70, 80 hours a week and was crushing it in business, and just really became this kind of an obsessive achiever. And, you know, really crushed my body. By the age of 29, there was a day where I couldn't get out of bed. You know, I had my very first experience of severe adrenal shutdown, and which put me in a depression, and just I really couldn't connect with anybody, became very antisocial. But through that descent into the health crisis, you know, it led to my body developing precancerous cells precancerous cells. And I had to really dig deep and get to the root of this health crisis. And the root was spiritual, root was emotional, and the root was, the lifestyle, the intensity of the lifestyle that I was putting myself through. And the funny thing is, when I was on the way of healing myself, I went to alternative methods, and I really started looking into nutrition and holistic healing and all of that. And through my own healing process, I began sharing my journey on social media. That's how my Facebook presence began. Simply from the heart, I would turn on the camera and I would say, hey guys, anybody going through adrenal shutdown? I just learned that this juice helps people. And I just start sharing, from the heart. And people start resonating with my message because I kept sharing what I would find. I would say, okay, you guys, if you have, challenges in this particular part of the body, I've realized there is always a spiritual root. Look into it. And through that, my very first wellness brand was born. Organically, spontaneously, simply through my own process of healing.
Wow. Now that is brilliant, because I think one of the questions we get from our audience often is, how do we go about following our calling? How do we go about following our purpose? And it seems like what you did was you used a challenge that you were given in life, and you literally used that not as an obstacle, not as a failure or a setback, but use it as a platform to not only help yourself but help others who might be going through the same problem. And I think that's where the business organically started for you, which was a wellness brand, and that is really awesome. And so let me ask you this. So I want to kind of take a step back here. So walk us through that journey in terms of, you're coming down the plane. What, did you land in New York City, or was there a different?
Oh my goodness. I land in the tiny little town of Skagway, Alaska.
Wow.
Yes. Only one grocery store, and it was so small, and you can only fly there by a small seaplane or take a boat. Wow. Yeah, so I came, those big cruise ships that go to Alaska every summer?
Yes.
So I would work at the gift store, to sell trinkets and stuff like that to the people in Alaska. And this was, if you allow me to share, this is a really funny story, because when I came there, my very first job was the housekeeping, right? Mm-hmm. And I did it for a month, and I was going insane, Cal. I was scrubbing the floors, but I was like, I need interaction with people. I go mad. And I went to my employer and I explained that situation. I'm like, if I just stay here, there is no way I can save enough money to pay for school. So I had to make a decision, and I literally went on the street and from business to business and say, hey, my name is Katerina. I am a Russian student, and if you're hiring, I would love to help you. So I was hired on the spot. It was a powerful business lesson for me. Just go and ask. Just go and offer your services to others and see what unravels from that, But we never receive what we don't ask for. So I went and I got 2 jobs, and one of them was, working in a pizza shop, and another one working in the gift store. And when I was working at the gift store and selling trinkets to these tourists, my one of the business owners of the gift store saw me, and he asked his business partner. He's like, "Who is that kid over there?" He's like, "Oh, it's Katerina, the Russian girl. She's an exchange student." And he says, "I want to talk to her." So he called me and he says, "Look, I've been watching you. How you sell those ornaments is spectacular. How you interact with customers is spectacular. I want to offer you, come back next summer, and I would love for you to run my jewelry store, to work in my jewelry store. Because if you sell trinkets like that, you have to sell diamonds."
Wow.
And he said, we don't have any conflict of interest. Your employee is my business partner. We're all great. And I said, absolutely. And, it was so powerful, that the philosophy that I live by, Cal, is be faithful and small. No matter the job that you got, be so faithful in it and be so committed, because people are watching how you show up. Absolutely watching. And it's this moments of showing up in small that lead you to bigger and bigger opportunities.
No, that is brilliant. And I think really what you're sharing here is the quintessential ethic of the United States, which is the dignity of labor. It doesn't matter how small of a job it is. And it reminds me of the quote by Dr. King, which is, if you're called to be a street sweeper, you got to sweep the streets like Michelangelo painted or Shakespeare wrote poetry, because, the God's watching there, and he would say, what a great street sweeper who swept his job well. And I think that's a great shining example of, you never know who might be watching. You never know. And it doesn't matter if anybody's watching or not. It's really your commitment to the little tasks, because how you do anything is how you do everything. And that's really a great, great lesson for all of us here.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why you can only understand life backwards, right? You have to live it forward and showing up forward. But then when you look back, you understand there are so many destiny points, Cal. So many destiny points. And it's all how we show up in the moment that lead us to a completely different destiny.
Absolutely. So that brings up another question. So you're in Alaska, and then was there what got you back to the mainland, and how did you get started as far as setting up your speaking and coaching business? And for the benefit of the audience, Katerina, over the last 15 years, she has assisted hundreds of people to learn to love themselves, step into their power, align with their soul's calling, find their soulmates, and become conscious entrepreneurs. And really, she helps people turn their biggest dreams into reality and to live a life authentically. So that is so great. And I really want to kind of understand that trajectory. We understood the background, the start that you got from the jewelry store. Where did that journey end up here? How did that happen? Because that is really a miraculous journey. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so I've done 3 seasons in Alaska, and it was really fun, but then it was really just challenging on the body, such long hours. So I decided to move to Portland. And I went to my 3rd college there. I studied linguistics, and it was so funny because, I remember the moment I was like my 2nd year of studying linguistics, because I thought I was going to be a translator. I've done that in Russia. And then I had this moment of clarity. I was like, no, this is not what I want to do. And I just picked up my books and I walked out of the class, And so there were so many redirection points on my path. And after I lived in Portland, I was actually discovered by this fitness modeling agency. I rarely talk about this on Facebook, but it's actually, I had a modeling career as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I did. I was a professional fitness competitor, and which was incredibly powerful because I've learned to master the body, and really learned to understand my body. And it was helpful because another dramatic event before my health crisis, there was another dramatic event, which was my very first and only divorce. And divorce was really an awakening point for me, Cal. My first marriage was, the trial marriage, where you're so young and you're so confident that you know what you're doing and you have no idea what you're doing. You know what I mean? So that relationship came to its conclusion. The divorce was very challenging. I didn't have any emotional tools to deal with the grief and the loss and the guilt that comes when you exit a marriage. So in order to just get myself back on track, I started really being committed into fitness. I was working out daily. I really put 2 and 2 together that when you move your body, your emotions move with you. So I got more and more into that. And then a photographer from the agency discovered me at local gym, and he'd come up to me. He's like, "Hey, you have this very clean look. Would you be interested, to be a fitness model?" I was like, "What?" I could never believe that somebody would see me like that, And I said yes. And this is another teaching point. The right opportunities always find you. When you're ready for them, they find you. But it's being ready, be available to that mystery of life. So I started my career in modeling and in fitness, which was really powerful as well. And, I just kept developing these different gifts. I was in sales, I was in real estate, you name it. I had all these different, it's like this path and all these different kind of branches of the path that only now I understand how important they were. But when I stepped on entrepreneurship journey, it was also really interesting. A friend of mine was visiting out of town and I made him one of my smoothies, and he says, Katerina, girl, these smoothies are amazing. You gotta put a smoothie book out. And once again, the voice in my head was like, who would ever read this? Are you kidding me? So like maybe some of you listeners, but want to put their creation out into the world. And I recognize those voices, the voices of disbelief. And what my friend did so geniusly, he really enchanted me with simplicity of the process. He introduced me to the world of the freelancers, and he says, look, this is how you design your book cover, this is how you hire an editor, and this is how you put the whole thing together. And I just ran with it, Cal. He just gave me a start, and I just ran with it. I started working on my Facebook, my very first book on nutrition, and that's how the whole brand was born. A nutrition brand. And the journey after the nutrition, I did it for a couple years. I launched digital programs, everything self-taught. You know how we entrepreneurs, we're crazy like that. We just dive deep and go, And then after nutrition wellness brand, I felt the completion of that journey. I felt disconnected from that message, and I just felt something new is being born out of me. And I kept looking at the clients that I was working with, and some had incredible success and really powerful shifts, and some on exactly the same program, they didn't have that success. So I had a light bulb moment, because I realized the wellness is not about what you eat and how you move your body. That's fundamentals. But wellness is what your environment looks like and who you're in the relationship with. So that was a powerful insight, and I naturally just dove deep into understanding human dynamic and relationships and conflict resolution and the power of your environment. And that led me into start doing relationship work with people. And I went after the toughest crowd, Cal. I went after the single, busy entrepreneurs, male entrepreneurs. You know what I mean? It was the most difficult, the crowd, but it made me so much stronger. When I was bringing that brand into the world, I started leading masterminds, my very first high-end masterminds. I started leading these events. And I had to learn the process of enrollment and sales and really look deep into the business structure of my business, not just developing my gifts. So when I was learning how to really articulate about what you do, how to enroll people in a bigger vision for their life, right? That's what sales, from my perspectives, are. I had to learn through that. It took me about 7 months, just like this drilling of high-end sales, because I didn't have any training on that, and what I realized, most coaches, a lot of them, that's the weakest spot. And I have a philosophy is to find the weak spot in your business and make it strong. So sales used to be the weakest part of my business. Now it's the strongest one. And I naturally began to teach it, so my business consulting was born out of, once again, something was challenging, deeply challenging. And I turned it around and said, okay, let me make this strong. And once I made that strong, people start coming to me and say, hey, we've been watching your evolution. Your business is thriving. Teach us how you do it. And then I launched the Business Academy, which was Catalyst Academy. So you see how the trajectory is. It was always the same kind of a pattern, Cal. A challenge, you struggle, you feel alone, you develop mastery through the struggle, and then other people come to you when the teacher is ready, student appears.
Wow. Now, this is really fascinating. And, there is that classic saying, it's like when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. But I think in your case, you actually built a lemonade stand. No, that's really great. And just to kind of recap from your wonderful share here. So it seems like the challenges that you encountered in life, you use that as an opportunity to do a deep dive, gain mastery over that particular area, and really turn it around and help other people dealing with that same crisis and make them succeed at that craft. And for example, looking at your brand, I mean, the three areas that you really have had some major success is, wellness brand. And that came out of really, if you take a step back all the way to that health crisis you had, and then really, openly sharing about the discoveries you made along the way to really heal yourself. And that eventually led into like the opportunity to write a book and then get that wellness brand going. And then obviously, I'm sure with the experience of a divorce at an early age, there were some lessons that you learned, and then you did a deep dive to understand what relationships really is about and how do you not only make it work, but how do you actually create the juiciest of relationships, and how does it relate to environment? And the third thing really is about, sales was one of your weakest areas, and you have now the knack to turn your weakness into your strength. And then you did again a deep dive into it within a 7-month period. You understood everything about sales, and now that's become your massive strength. And you also do mastermind retreats, helping people do the same. So that's really, really great. Did I capture it okay?
You have what a mastery of summarizing it so beautifully. Yes, Cal. Yeah. And it's funny because I'm about to do a talk on resilience for entrepreneurs. And, I call them rings of fire, that your higher self, right? Your higher self, the bigger part of you, will invite you into these rings of fire to purify the ego, purify all these fears, right? And really turn anything weak into strong. And with every leap on this conscious entrepreneurship path, there is going to be rings of fire. And this is one of the things I teach my students and I share with, on social media is honor the struggle, honor that purifying fire, because number one, you become a very humble leader. And humility is so, so crucial right now. I love this idea of sharing your journey, sharing when it's messy, sharing when it's not easy, because the last thing that I would want to see is only showcase your success, only showcase when you're on the top of the mountain. But what happens when you climb to the first base, right? To the second base, and the epiphanies and the soul insights that come when you're in the thick of it. Wow, they land so powerfully with people, because people feel like, oh, I am human and I am divine, and it's okay to be a strong leader and at the same time feel like you're about to fall apart sometimes. It's part of the process. And I stand for really honoring humanity in leadership. That yes, we're superheroes. Yes, we sometimes move mountains, but there is also this really sacred human part of who we are, and to honor that and to honor all of this.
No, that is really great. I love it. And it's, it reminds me of, the story of the hero's journey by Joseph Campbell. And in modern day times, if you look at Angela Duckworth's book, which is The Grit, they did a study on people who've been massively successful. And one of the common denominators, what they found out was it's the grit that makes all the difference. And I think in many ways, I think you're referring to resilience as being part of that grit. And I think that's such a beautiful point. And I want to get that Steve Jobs quote right here. And what he said was, you cannot connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. And I think it seems like that's been your philosophy of life. Now, it's so beautiful. Mm-hmm. That brings me up with another question for you, Katerina. It's, who are your mentors? Because we know that coaches and mentors make a big difference in how we, the amount of success we have in life, not because they're better than us, not because they know something that we don't know, but it's something that they are able to identify our blind spots. And so my question to you is, who are your mentors or who are your influences, and were there any particular people that you want to give a shout out to?
Absolutely. Well, the first one, I want to honor my spiritual teacher, and he really loves to stay anonymous. He protects his identity. So I call him my spiritual teacher. But he witnessed my journey from, literally from the health crisis all the way to here. So for the last 8 years. And it's such a humble man, him and his wife of 30 years and 3 sons. They live in a beautiful land, and they make drums and they serve people from the place of like simplicity, and he is the one whom I respect him so much by simply observing how he lives, honoring the sacredness of the earth, honoring the community, building a powerful community. And so I would say he is definitely a number one. And he's as able to speak truth to my soul from the place of gentleness, but from the place of power, So he is the first one. And then I consider my mentor is spiritual teacher as Carolyn Mice. I love her teachings, the way how she teaches so boldly, so unapologetically. Then Deepak Chopra, Joe Dispenza. So those would be my influences at the moment, for sure. On the business side, I will honor Brendon Burchard. Brendon Burchard ignited my entrepreneurial fire. Tony Robbins ignited the leadership identity in me. At that event where you and I were at the same time, remember the moment where Tony asks us to choose a new word that represents a new identity. Yeah, yes. And I remember, I felt into that, and the first word that came was leader. And I felt like this initiation call to leadership. And, and I said, a leader is my identity. A leader is what being born in me. And, leadership is such a fascinating path. I wonder if you can relate to what I'm about to share, because I don't believe everybody I don't believe everybody is a leader. Because not everybody is a parent. Almost everybody has capacity to be a parent, but it doesn't mean that they need to be, right? Mm-hmm. Because just like leadership, parenthood and leadership both require immense sacrifice. I believe Simon Panic used that metaphor. And I really like that because, yes, we can have leadership capabilities and skills and abilities, but it's a path of sacrifice, it's a path of devotion, path of incredible courage, and the path of Atma's unknown. So for me, I look up to the leaders of our time, and definitely Brendon Burchard, definitely Tony Robbins. My business coach, Alex Moscow, with whom he mentored me for an entire year and was really, really powerful. He's young. He's 27 years old and he has a stutter and been stuttering all his life. And this is the warrior spirit, no matter, like that could be his major excuse of remain hiding, right? But this is the person who's done over 1,000 enrollment calls with a stutter. To cold leads. Wow. You know what I mean? That's the level of badassness that I look in my mentors. Do they have a warrior spirit? Are they going to go in the battle with me? Will they not leave me behind? And the level of playfulness and real authenticity, that's what I look in the mentors, and that's what I aspire to embody for the people that I get to serve.
That's really inspiring, and I want to kind of talk to you a little bit about this inspiring core values that you've really honed in for yourself. The one being radical self-acceptance, bold self-expression, fearless living, owning your story, and standing in your authentic power. How did you get clarity regarding these values? Was that something that it took some time for you to do some deep work? And because I know that you help other people with their transformational experiences and vision quests and really activating their destination adventures. So did you have to go through a similar process to identify your values?
I take people through the value discovery process, and it's actually a really, really deep one. And it's incredible because you can find the conflict in your values. And usually, like if somebody shares with me there is a problem of self-sabotage or the blocks or constrictions they can't identify, the very first thing I take them through the value conflict identification process, where we really look, okay, which values are important to you and how do you show up in alignment with these values? Because if you don't, there's going to be an inner conflict that results in the outer disharmony. So, I was just taking people through this process and I identify for myself these 5, because really, it all starts with acceptance. As an entrepreneur, you have to, there are so many moments of being awkward, right? You launch your first book, you launch your first product, and of course it's imperfect. And there's such beauty in the radical acceptance of where you at, honoring every part of your journey, because it's through these imperfect, bold action that you polish your craft and you develop your true mastery. But so many people will never allow themselves to look so foolish and so imperfect in public, right? So I say there is no such thing as failure. There is this deep fear of public humiliation for people. So a lot of times I give my clients 30-day Facebook Live challenge, to break through that fear. And I say, launch like crazy. You got your product to 70% good, launch it. Give people opportunity to offer you valuable feedback and perspective. But you can only do it if you radically accept who you are, where you at, and really just embrace all of you. It starts with acceptance.
That's beautiful. And that's one of the things that I've seen a lot of people struggle with is the lack of clarity, the lack of not knowing what their deepest values are, because then that becomes in conflict in their desires and dreams, and that really delays the manifestation of their dreams. And I think having that clarity definitely helps. Moving on to the next piece of it, I want to kind of ask you about your hobbies and interests. So since having come from Russia to the United States, have you picked up any of the typical U.S. Sports or hobbies, or is there anything that caught your fancy?
Spots and hobbies. I would say fast driving, yes. Because in Russia, I didn't have a car, Cal. I didn't have a license, so I love driving. It's very meditative for me. I love taking road trips and listen to audiobooks, and this is one of my favorites, absolutely. And when it comes to hobby, it's so interesting because I just love learning. I'm a voracious student. I love learning. I love teaching. So pretty much my business is this expression of my creativity. This is what I do because this is how I express myself. And when it comes to hobbies, I don't know. I would say probably maybe painting. I live a very contemplative life, Cal. People ask me always, how do I have so much content? I give so much content away, and I don't know, I struggle with that question because it's just naturally pouring out, it's like a kind of a channeling experience. But in order for me to be in a state of this, being a clear channel, I live a very contemplative life. So I spend a lot of times in nature walks, a lot of time just being, and my life is all about the arts. So it's kind of like I have a hybrid. It's a hybrid in me. I'm very, very left brain and very right brain at the same time. And to balance that is contemplative lifestyle where you create a lot of room for pauses, for deep physical relaxation, for meditation, for contemplative walks. Steve Jobs did them, right? He would go on a walk every day. So those are the cornerstones for my creativity. So I keep that creative inner well constantly fresh and constantly refreshed. And that's the first thing I ask when people say, well, I don't know what content to put out. And I say, tell me, how do you spend every day of your life? And what I'm looking for is, do they have space for the inspiration muse to actually be a part of their life.
No, it's really beautiful, and it's a great point. It's really a good reminder to be in nature, to be in a contemplative state of mind, because I think that's where those insights and breakthrough ideas and inspiration comes from. And I think that's really, really a good point. Now, having traveled all the way from Europe to the US, and are there any favorite places that you like to travel? What's your sweet place to go to?
I love India. India is such a sacred place for me. I really believe I spent many, many parallel incarnations there, because the moment I went there, I had such a deja vu experience. So India is very sacred. I go on a spiritual pilgrimages there. I love Tulum, Mexico. It's such a powerful vortex. You know, it's on the Caribbean side of Mexico. I did my last retreat there. So that's a beautiful, I love Spain. I love Hawaii. So, you know, I am a big time traveler, Cal. I am a big time traveler. I love it. And, you know, next year, I really plan on creating kind of like these sacred pilgrimages, you know, and take a small group, maybe 5 to 7 people, and really take them for 2 weeks at a time to visit these sacred sites all over the world and to receive the activation from the place of power, you know?
That's beautiful. And actually, as a matter of fact, I'm leaving for India actually in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the funny thing that you mentioned Spain, because I was in Spain not too long ago. I was in June, got an opportunity to visit Barcelona, Deia, and then Mallorca, and it was really awesome.
I love it. I love Mallorca. Oh my God, it's so magical. And Barcelona, yes.
Yeah, it was just beautiful. That's great. My next question to you, Katerina, is I know you're a voracious reader, as you mentioned. Are there any specific books that you've read or reread over the years, or you gifted it to other people?
Oh my goodness. I read like 5, 7 books at a time. You know, let's say recently I've been really drawn to, of course, these wisdom teachings, because I teach it, you know, like I take the esoterics and with the modern science. So the last one that I'm really into is called the Gene Keys, and it's a transmission of the wisdom. It's literally like a synthesis of all wisdom teachings, all the way from I Ching. It's based on I Ching, Kabbalah, you know, astrology, numerology, quantum physics. It's a teaching that is ahead of its time. And at the same time, for visionaries, you know, every time I introduce that book to a visionary, they just devour it. So that's really powerful. It's really, it's incredible. And then another book that I really, really love is Break the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza. And what I love about that book is because it's just translate the mystical experience into a very practical and scientific language. You know, so what I love about Dispenza work is that he's able to reach such a bigger audience simply by using a language that they understand. And that is right? And that's such mastery. It's such mastery. So I love that one. And of course, Women Who Run with the Wolves, Myths and Stories of the Wild Woman Archetype by Clarissa Pinkola. That one is the Bible for every female leader, I would say, because, you know, it's such a journey of a feminine soul through this incarnation, and it's just incredible. There's many stories, and I believe the most powerful leader is a powerful storyteller. So I always look for stories, and this is the book that full of fairy tales and stories, and, you know, from different cultures.
Wow, no, that is so great. And I mean, we're going to include all these books in our show notes for the benefit of the audience. And I mean, it seems like you've been exposed to some really amazing modalities like I Ching, Kabbalah, and the chakra system, and also shamanic tradition. And, I have so many questions for you in that regard, but maybe we'll probably, have to schedule another call for you to talk more about that. But let's move on to the next question that I have for you is, if you could go back in time, Katerina, and talk to your young self, what advice would you give her?
I would look her in the eyes. I would give her a big hug, and I would say, I am so proud of you. You are guided, you're provided, and you keep that childlike spirit. Yeah, I would just really reassure her that she's on the path and she's guided every step of the way.
Wow, no, it's really a beautiful sentiment, and we always have these angels looking over us, and it's a matter of tuning in, as you said earlier, and really channeling and being inspired by, the insights that we get from the universe. And I think that's really a kind of guidance that we all have. It's just a matter of being receptive. And
yes.
That's really great. And so we're going to switch gears here, and we're going to take some questions from the audience. And the first question I have for you is, what stops people, in your opinion, Katerina, from achieving their full potential?
Status quo, fear of your own originality, fear of your own uniqueness, and fear to stand out, because genius is bold. Here's one thing I know for sure, Cal, is no matter what backgrounds we came from, you're an immigrant, I'm an immigrant, right? No matter what backgrounds we come from, we all have something that is inherently beautiful in every single person, and it's a spark of genius. On that level, we are equal as human beings. We each have a spark of genius, unique to us. And it's up to us to bring it forward, to develop it, to believe in ourselves. And genius is inherently bold. Genius is inherently out of the box. And what I find is, the most difficult leap for people to take is to break out of the status quo, break out of the crowd, and really believe and take this courageous leap into their own originality, and trusting that what they have, their gifts, are enough. So I would say that's probably what stops the most. It's like in the movie Matrix. You got to take that red pill. You got to move to a different reality and the transition, because it's ultimate unknown. That's why surrounding yourself with mentors and with teachers and and people of the same mindset and the same dream is everything. Because at the end of the day, your environment always wins. It always wins. So, when I was in the beginning of my journey, Cal, I would go to so many conferences, right? Every 90 days, I would go to a conference to learn a new skill, to surround myself with that high vibration, that visionary mindset. At 2015, I went to 30 different conferences. I was insane. It was crazy Russian style. But I wanted to build up that fire to reach the critical point of breaking free from the shackles of status quo and really seeing my own uniqueness and believing in my own genius.
No, it's really great, and I like what you just said. It's really standing out, owning your story, owning your greatness, and owning your genius. I mean, that's really the most important point. And it reminds me of a conversation I was listening to on a podcast recently. It was Paulo Coelho, who wrote The Alchemist. And
I love that book.
Yeah. And I think he was in a conversation with Oprah, I believe. And one of the things he said in that conversation that stuck with me, he said something to the effect that, if you do not fear the unknown will be kind to you. And
ooh. I'm gonna write this down.
and I was like, wow, that is really beautiful. And it kind of just reminded me of that when you said that. No, that's so great. And the next question I have for you is, excellence, they say, is about practicing good habits. What do you spend most of your time doing besides contemplation? And do you have a ritual that you follow, or is there anything that's specific, your morning rituals or evening rituals? What do you do to help yourself perform at your peak levels?
Absolutely. It's all about rituals. It's so true. So I have the morning ritual for me is I wake up and start my day with gratitude, of course, pat my cat. My cat will begin to purr. We have that ritual. I think to have an animal for an entrepreneur is the key. They help us to lower our stress levels, So I'll spend some time with my kitten, and then I just go on the morning run. It's a short one. I live 5 minutes away from the beach. So my ritual is always get into the nature, start my day in the nature, put my feet into the sand, and I start grounding into this reality. So I align my chakras. I make sure that my energy body is activated. I do a very simple ritual of activation, and then setting intention for the day. I stop setting goals, Cal. I stop setting goals. I live in such surrender and service to the Spirit. My daily prayer, I say, Spirit, this day is dedicated to you. Lead me where you need me to lead. And all I want is just follow the guidance, follow the soul crumbs, as I call them. So yes, of course, I plan my day, but very fluidly, very fluidly. I create enough space for that guidance when the Spirit moves me somewhere. I say, hey, you need it here. I can step into it. And definitely daily fitness, because I have a visionary mind, there is a danger of getting stuck in your head. So I've learned the moment I get into my head, the moment I start overanalyzing things, right, I need to get back into the body. So I take these breaks through the day where it's either a walk or workout, but really varying intense mental activity with a strong physical activity. And at the end of the day, I have a hot tub ritual. I get into the hot tub and I just look at the sky, and I just have this completion of the day. It's really powerful. Usually at night, I just go over my day mentally and ask myself, well, what is it I'm proud of myself for? And I just really celebrate. And I don't do it every night because sometimes this has been a difficult practice, Cal, It's easy to say, oh, what I haven't done. Oh my God, I haven't accomplished this. I haven't done that. But when I remember, I like to celebrate. I like to rewind the day and say, Katerina, what are you proud of yourself today? And it's so beautiful because then you end your day with gratitude. You send a powerful message to your subconscious mind, right? To give you opportunities to be even more grateful for. So I'm really mindful how I start the day, where is my mental state and physical state, and how I finish it.
That's really great. I think we share quite a few practices right there in the rituals, because I usually start my day with meditation in the morning, and then it gets followed up with a little bit of reading, and then journaling, and then taking a cold morning shower, because for me that's been a practice that really awakens all my physical senses in the morning.
I need to do that. I'm going to do that.
It was a little challenging at first, but then now that I've gotten used to it, it's become. I think there was a study done by University of London that says that it takes 66 days to really carve out that plasticity niche in your brain. So essentially 66 days to form a new habit. And so that's really something that I diligently follow through on. And one of the things I'm trying to do at night, which I really like, is, celebrating the day in the sense, what are the 3 big wins from today, regardless of that, and then setting an intention or a question to the subconscious mind on any problem or challenge that I might be dealing with, to let the subconscious take over and have a solution for me the next morning. So that's really great. So the other question I have for you, Katerina, is, coaching, and we talked about coaching earlier, is that it can be one of the best investments. And I know you lead the mastermind retreats, and you also take people on these beautiful trips. And I've seen some of your YouTube videos and all that with people really having a great time and a great experience and a transformational one at that. So my question to you is, can you walk us through your coaching process? Do you have like what can people expect to get when they go on a retreat with you? Or what's your mastermind process look like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for asking. When it comes to retreats, I really lead them once a year. They're kind of like a pinnacle of the work that I do with people for entire year. So usually my private clients have access to all my events. It just comes with, and the reason I do that is because when I work with people, I build a very comprehensive support, kind of like a foundation, strong foundation. I take them on the journey. And if I say them to them, every person that starts working with me will start with immersive weekend. It's kind of like a launch pad into the new reality, into the new vision. And then I introduce them to different communities that I belong to. So some will be ready for a vision quest, and I introduce them to my spiritual community, right? Some need to loosen up and really just unlock that inner rebel. I may take them to the Burning Man community. So it just depends on the person. And some people are ready for Tony Robbins, and I'll take them to the Tony Robbins community. So it just depends on the person. I've built these really powerful soul family tribes through the years that I bring my clients in depending on their needs and their goals and desires. When it comes to retreats, I really focus on taking people to these very potent energetic portals. So like the Tulum it's a Mayan civilization. It's century after century of this memory of the lineage that you tap into. There's been done so much research how these places of power, whether it's a temple or a vortex, there's a unique blend of frequencies that accelerate your growth, that accelerate your awakening. And when I experienced that on myself, I was like, I feel so inspired to bring it to others, and it's so incredible because shifts are really, really prominent, and it's like a destiny altering experience. I take people out of their environments, and the transformation begins, the moment they commit, and they go, and their innovation gets stimulated, because a lot of times we're so committed to our mission and to our purpose, we sacrifice, traveling, we sacrifice doing something for our soul because our mission comes first. And I'm really here to help people to see that every time they take this intentional pause, it will absolutely power their performance. They become more effective leaders. They become more compassionate. They become more playful. They become just a better people to be around, They get their joy back. And, that's the reason why I do retreats. And it's just amazing. It's so, so powerful. And when it comes to a mastermind, I launch a new mastermind every year. So last year was a Catalyst Academy. And this year is Prosperity Mastermind. And really how I see prosperity is creating prosperity in your business, but also creating prosperity in your relationships without sacrificing one for another. Right? And so this one's going to be based on the art of enrollment, the art of guidance, and the art of leadership. So this is for coaches and experts and leaders and speakers, people who have a message and people who have the audacity to really go and take that message into a bigger way.
Wow. No, this is great. Really great. And, and really what I'm hearing here is you help people sharpen the saw, especially for the spirit and the soul. So yes. That's really great. And so moving on to our next section, and this is the rapid fire round. And
I love it.
And I'm going to ask you a bunch of fun questions. And it's the first response that comes to your mind, Katerina. If you feel the need to elaborate on it, feel free to do so. But again, this is the rapid fire round. So Katerina, are you ready?
Yes.
All right. So my first question to you is, who's your favorite music band?
Oh, my God. Okay. Weekend Players.
The next question is, what's your favorite color?
It is indigo, purple, white. Gold.
All right, 4 of them. Okay, do you believe in magic?
I am magic.
I like that. The next one, the 5 most important things in life, according to you.
Relationships, purpose, environment, service, adventure.
I really like that. Those are really beautiful ones. Now, the next question is, if you could ask God one question, what would it be?
I would ask, God, what question do you want me to ask?
And then, what's your definition of a successful life or a good life?
Successful life is looking back at your life, knowing that you went all in. You went all in on your dream. You went all in your relationships. You went all in your adventure, in your expression of yourself. That, looking back and you say, I did not hold back. I gave it all. I went all in. To me.
That's beautiful. Very inspiring. It's about playing full out. It's like really, really playing full out like that. And then the final question within the rapid fire round, and that is, if you could have any message of your choice on a billboard, what would that be?
The first that came up is trust your heart.
That's I like that. That's really good. And then final section. This is a wrap-up section, and I just have last 3 questions for you. So the first one is, what is your current personal or business passion project that you're working on, and what are you looking forward to in the next 6 months to a year?
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah, the passionate project for me is definitely the launch of Prosperity Mastermind. I feel the call to serve, maybe 10, 11 people and just pour all my energy into this group, make it a group of badass entrepreneurs committed to a bigger mission. And my next transformational retreat in Hawaii, the most ancient island. It's a 5 million year old island. Beautiful, powerful energy vortex. And that's going to be in February. So really looking forward to that as well. So those 2 big ones are for me. Yes.
That's great. Really great. And then where can people reach you at? I know you're on Facebook quite a bit. What are your favorite other social media places that you like to go to?
Yeah, I love social media. Facebook, I'm there all the time. It would be so amazing if people send me a message, introduce themselves, or just follow me. I post live streams almost every day, just high value content. And it's really, really fun. I'm also on LinkedIn. So I would say you can always find me on LinkedIn and on Facebook. YouTube, I am restoring my passion with YouTube. I just kind of left it for a year. I was like, it's too big of a net. It's too big of a wide net. So I like to really build a community and focus on the community. So my Facebook, I see it as a lighthouse. It's constantly beaming light of inspiration, value, hope, and support for people. There is no negativity. It's just like this lighthouse that people come to and refuel their inspiration.
That's great. And we'll include all these social media links in our show notes as well. The next question is, what are 3 things you're grateful for in life today, Katerina?
I am so grateful for this beautiful sanctuary of a home that I've created. I wake up and I see the ocean, and it's been my dream for so many years to live by the ocean, and I took this giant leap of faith and I trusted the guidance and I moved to Laguna Beach So I'm very, very, very grateful for this town. It's so incredible here. I'm so happy. Every day I'm like, thank you, Spirit. I trusted. I took the leap. I came here, Then I am grateful for... I'm just grateful for this life, Cal. I'm grateful for constant expansion. We're living in such incredible times. And then I am very grateful for my kitten, Gracie, because she brings so much joy into my life. She's almost a year old. And like I mentioned before, I believe entrepreneurs, we have to have animals. Because, they soften us, they soften us. They really help, especially when you go through rings of fire. So I'm very grateful for my kitten.
That's great. And I want to acknowledge you, Katerina, for a few things here. Based on your sharing, and this is what I was present to. One was really what a remarkable journey that you've had. As a little kid with dreams in your eyes, you come all the way from Russia to the United States, never even once giving up on your dream, and then following it through all the struggles that you faced, all the way from, the health crisis you had, and really taking that on as a challenge, and then not only overcoming it, but helping others do the same. Taking the relationship breakdown you had, turning that around and helping others have magnificent relationships, and then really creating a business for yourself so that you can live a life of prosperity. And now you're helping other people have abundance and prosperity in their lives. And it's such a beautiful testament to what is possible when you surround yourself with people who are up to big things in life. And you, as you said, rightly said, environment always wins. And you really have showed us that it is possible to live your dreams and to live, be an example of fearless living and to really own your story. So that's really, really awesome. So I really want to thank you for that.
That was such a beautiful summary. Thank you, Cal. Thank you. And it's, the power is in this sharing, right? Because ultimately, I believe the legacy that we leave behind, it's deeply spiritual in nature. The true legacy we leave is these lessons and the wisdom that we can pass to others, right? And this the part of the journey. And it's so incredible. It's a true hero's journey that we own. Oh, the alchemist journey.
That's great. And one final question, and that's how we wrap up all our interviews, and that is, why do you think people should listen to the Wisdom of Friends?
It's such a portal of inspiration that you created. And I love the down to earth, the feeling. I love how you focus on the story. It's like an oasis of inspiration, and I think we all would benefit from a little bit more inspiration from others. And that will, it usually gives the strength to continue on our path.
That is so great, and thank you for the feedback, and I really valued our conversation tonight, and thank you again for taking the time to be on this program. And for those of us listening, with that, we'll wrap it up. And if you like what you heard, please share. Don't be shy.
Thanks for listening to the Wisdom of Friends show with Cal Arras. If you like what you just heard, we hope you'll pass along our web address, theglobalcontribution.com. To your friends and colleagues, be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous episodes. This has been a Seven Symphonies production. Join us next time for another edition of the Wisdom of Friends.